In the last video where I created the Cupcake app, I didn't explain some of the functions I used. In this video, we're gonna look at the code I used. We're gonna take a look at how it works. Okay, first, I didn't even use the string resources anywhere in the app. That's not a good practice. We want to use string resources wherever we have text. So for example, here, this text composable, I am passing in a hard-coded text value. We don't want to use this. We want to use string resource for this. We know how to use string resources, but I'm gonna show you how to use it just so we're on the same page. So all the string resources are located in the resources values folder. Strings.xml file is where all the strings are located. Currently, it only has one string for the app name. So let's create another one. To create another string, we need to use the string element and pass some values. I created a string with a name text, with a name test, with a value also test. Let's now use this string resource in our app. When we pass the strings name to the our object, we actually get a unique identifier for the string resource, but we can't use that unique identifier. We need to pass that unique identifier to string resource function. So this function expects ID. So this is where we pass that unique identifier. Now our app can use string resources. My bad. I was supposed to use the test. Not only can you pass string identifier to string resource function, you can also pass additional parameters. You can check what additional parameters a function expects by pressing Ctrl P. So this string resource function has two overloads. One that expects a ID, another that expects a format args. I don't know what this var arg actually is, but for this string resource function, we can pass any number of parameters. We can then reference all these parameters passed to the string resource function in our resources file. For example, here we can use a special syntax. We can use the percentage sign, and then you can use as. So this is a placeholder. This particular syntax holds a place for a string value. So if we passed a string, then this parameter will be passed to the this placeholder, and it will say test me. You can also reference the order of parameters. For example, if you wanted to get the first parameter, you use $1. So let me put another placeholder for a string. So now I have changed the order of how the parameters are placed. So the first parameter will be placed last and the second parameter will be used first. So the first parameter was used at the end last parameter was used at the beginning. You can also use placeholder for integers. You use %d for that. There might be other syntaxes for different data types, but I think these two placeholder will be enough. This is the string resources they used in the Cupcake final app. As you can see, they're using placeholders for strings. They're also referencing the parameters, and they are also using a new line character, this forward slash, and n is a new line character. So if you use like press enter here, all these spaces, all these new lines are ignored unless you use this special character. Then it will create a new line. In the string resources file, there is also another element called plurals. With the help of this element, you're able to return different strings depending on the quantity. You provide this quantity when you try to access this plural element. We need to use a different function to access the plurals strings. So we're gonna look at that in a bit. This is how you declare a plurals element. You use the plurals name. Inside of the opening and closing tags of the plurals element, you create items. You create item elements. Item elements have a quantity attribute. If you press Ctrl plus space, you get a list of all the possible value you can pass to the quantity. In English, we commonly use one and other. One is used to represent one quantity. The other is to represent more than one quantity. For example, so for the one quantity, I could say, if we add one cupcake, I want to say cupcake. If we add more than one cupcake, I want to say cupcakes. So this is how plurals work, right? We just add s at the end. When you try to access these plurals, you pass a quantity to the function. Android returns one of the items defined inside of the plurals depending on the quantity passed. So let's try to access this item strings. We can't use a string resource to access plurals. We need to use get quantity string. This get quantity string is not available outside of the context. So we need to get the context as a resource method. So we need to use the get quantity string inside of the resources method that's inside of a context. So let's see what parameters this accepts by pressing Ctrl P. This expects this has two overloads. One that expects unique resource identifier and then a quantity. And then we can pass additional parameters which can then be referenced in the strings resources file. For the ID, I am passing this string resource r.plural.testplurals. This is the name I used for the plurals element. And then we want to pass quantity. For the quantity, I'm going to pass 1. So I'm expecting it to say cupcakes, just cupcakes, just cupcake. So if I pass more than 1, it should say cupcakes. Additionally, we can pass some parameters like we did with the string resources function. For example, we could pass an integer And then inside of here, we could then use that integer like this. So this is where the integer will be used in front of the cupcake's name. One advantage of using string resources is that you can easily translate your app to another language. It's pretty simple. All you need to do is create a folder that follows certain naming convention alongside the default values folder and put a string resource file inside of it. This string resource file pretty much contains every string element inside of your original string resource file. This file uses the same names as your original string resource file, but the actual values are translated to the language you want your app to support. That's pretty much it. Android then takes care of what string resources to use depending on the language the user has selected in the setting. Let's take a look at the convention you need to follow to name the folder. This is the convention. First, you use the values and then hyphen and the language code and then hyphen R followed by the region code. The language code is actually defined inside of ISO 639-1 standard. So if you wanted to find the language code of some language, you just need to Google language code ISO. So this is the result I got. Let's look for the language code of Hindi. Okay, this is the code. It's HI. We need this to name our folder. So next, we need to find the region code. This is also defined inside a ISO standard. To be more specific, ISO 3166-1 Alpha 2. Just Google it to find them. Here's what I found. So this is a Wikipedia article. Here we can see the region code of all the countries. Let me quickly search for the United States. So the region code of the United States of America is US. So now we can use this to create the folder. Okay, we just need to create inside of res folder. Let me create the Android resource directory. So values hyphen the language code I'm using will be HI for Hindi. You can either use the region code or leave it out. It's optional. Since it's optional, I'm gonna leave that out. Let's try translating our app. Currently, this is all the string resources we use. I just need to translate this test word. So let me just copy this one string. Let's create a new values resource file. I'm going to call this string. I'm going to paste the string that I copied. Now I just need to translate this word. My Hindi is not that good, so let's quickly translate it using Google. Okay. So this is the translated word. All we need to do is paste it here. So now if we go to the settings app on our device and change the system language to Hindi, our app will display this. Our app will then use this string. Currently it's using English. Oops, I was testing my native language and so this is the Hindi. I don't know if you can read it or not. This, if you select this, everything, every text inside of this app will use Hindi. So currently it's at the bottom of the list. We need to bring it on top. And everything, so every text will use Hindi. As you can already see, it's using Hindi. So if we go back to our app should also be using Hindi. And that's pretty much it. We learned how to translate our app. There's some more thing that I need to cover. I'm going to cover that in the next video. Until then, see ya.